Hello, I'm Janine Larsen, Seitetsu, resident priest of Bright Cloud Zen sitting groups in Seattle and Woodinville, Washington, and a senior Dharma teacher with the Empty Moon Zen Sangha. It's really good to be with you today. Lately, though, I've been feeling a distinct sense of ennui in my life. It's like drinking a tasteless smoothie blend of sadness, tiredness, hopelessness, with just a sprinkle of uneasiness, subtly salted with a bit of anger, and served alongside a nice, bland plate of powerlessness. Does it have anything to do with the dull routine and restrictions of stay-at-home guidelines? Well, how could it not? I tend to be a pretty satisfied, generally optimistic, usually happy person. I'm easily delighted, regularly moved by the beauty in small details. I have the good fortune to both love and clearly be loved by others, including our tail-wagging, non-judgmental family member, Mary the dog. I'm also a confirmed introvert, so in many ways I have deeply enjoyed this time of being excused from slipping into the role of situational extrovert to be with crowds of humans I am genuinely very fond of and also find exhausting. I'm also on to my ways, or at least some of them, thanks at least in part to the annoying aspect of Zen practice that can be wrapped up in the phrase, pay attention, and the subtext that goes with it. Is that so? While it would be understandable and not incorrect to blame this present creeping sense of ennui on the enforced break in social and other patterns that is a recognized hallmark of the prolonged stay home, stay safe experience, the real answer is to be found nowhere but right here, in the quiet and clever desperation of my own response as I write the current chapter of that scintillating drama, What's Janine Telling Herself This Time? So, as I look at my current unsettlement around this present moment, one of the questions Zen has taught me to bring into this practice of my life is, what's under this? And that goes hand in hand with, where have I seen this before? For me, this sense of ennui is not actually unfamiliar. It arises from time to time. It springs from many sources, and it leads to several branching paths I have discovered over the years. What's under this tends to have, for me, its roots in anger, or grief, or disappointment, or fear, that's a particularly rich vein, or other emotions, including sometimes, I don't know. Sometimes I notice that the emotional roots grow out of several sources or invite various unspent, that is, and pent-up emotions to join in building an escalating torrent of upset. What am I avoiding? What am I choosing? I always try to remember to look under the familiar rocks where my go-to hard-learned and regularly polished responses hide, always at the ready to spring forth and trip me up and offer me the comfort of stories I tell myself over and over, especially when facing the truth is something I've carefully trained myself to turn away from. Sometimes I can identify a specific emotion and follow it to roots of real stuff that can be addressed. Oh, I feel angry and hurt and fearful because that particular comment from this person reminded me that I'm worried about being unloved and alone. Then I can check myself. Is this a real danger? Do I need to check in with that person about whether this is what they wanted to convey? Do I need to strip off several layers of auto response to recast my interpretation? Often, I come to recognize a large jumble of negative feelings. At the very root might be something like, I feel like my life is out of control. I've learned that one of the possible roots of this for me includes, maybe my chemistry is out of whack. If not addressed, I've learned that this can have a spiraling effect for me, one that I recognize as the road to depression. This one needs the application of help outside of me talking to and listening to just my own voices. Having had the benefit of working with medical professionals, including psychologists and counselors, I have learned that a good first step for me is to go outside and get some fresh air and oxygen, and to reapply this treatment at least daily. I've learned to examine my diet, look at my water intake, my sleep quality and quantity, and equally importantly, I've learned to enlist supporters outside of my own body to help me check my responses. A family member or trusted friend, my doctor, my therapist, and yes, even my Zen teacher, who I trust to push me to use tools outside of just the Zen toolkit. Zen can be a restorative, a corrective, a companion, a prompt, a comfort. It's a powerful tool for insight into one's true nature, and a helpful pointer to the tropes and traps we've built for ourselves. But let's not fool ourselves into throwing out all the rest of the tools for a healthy life that are also at our disposal. By all means, when ennui comes for tea, bring it into your Zen practice. By all means, double down on your practice and let it breathe back life for you. But please don't turn everything into a self-diagnosed case of Zennui that can be only resolved by the application of more sitting. That too can easily turn into a bad case of self-inflicted Dharma torture. My recommendation is to apply the three treasures liberally. There are many faces of the Buddha in your reflection, many arms of Kuan Yin reaching out to the world, including you. There are many paths that offer the steps of Dharma right under your feet. There are many bows and myriad voices offered by the Sangha to support this complex and straightforward practice of life. Please, don't limit yourself to one rough road of your own construction. In these times of unfamiliar and too familiar constraints, please care for yourself when encountering ennui and the pitfall of its strident and uninformed detour, Zennui. In a way, the constraints of staying safe are forcing us into a meditative practice of its own that invites us to examine what's really going on with us. Perhaps the grief you're feeling is real. What has the busyness of life prior to quarantine allowed you to cover up that is now calling for your attention, finally? What sadness in the world is asking for the application of yourself in a way that you have never considered? What if the restlessness and unsatisfactoriness you just can't shake is an unexpected invitation to reconnection with a more thoughtful, more creative part of your brain, yourself, that has been begging for release? What strength might these times and these current ways be awakening in you? What can you do? Maybe in a way you've never tried before, because your usual patterns always default to a well-known way. This is a great time to learn. Maybe you can find new ways to flail and fail that will bring you into new ways of succeeding in actually changing your life and the lives of those around you. In our Seattle area Bright Cloud Zen practice groups, we've just begun our shared study of Joanna Macy's 2012 book, Active Hope: How to Face the Mess We're In Without Going Crazy. We're finding much that applies to our current personal and cultural crisis arising with this pandemic. Introducing Chapter 1 in the book is this quote from environmentalist David Corton. "When the stories a society shares are out of tune with its circumstances, they can become self-limiting, even a threat to survival. That is our current situation." This book then relates the political reply to a question posed in 2001. Do we need to correct our lifestyles to address the energy problem? The answer from the White House then is the same as now for all questions. It should be the goal of policymakers to protect the American way of life. I challenge all of us to find a better answer for our current crisis. What is the opportunity to change that we are all being invited into, begged to begin? We are being asked, as always, to engage the great matter of this moment. What is it we will do that is not the answer that has kept us stuck in the same repetition of a singularly unhelpful pattern? Please take the opportunity to use your practice to light the way for your first step onto a new path in answering an old question that requires great courage, great determination, and great hope. Thank you.